GM, hot takes and cold wallets. I think it's episode number 4 by now. So I'm meeting with the guys again. Nikita, Juan, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. It's getting ready to fly out. We're going to be heading over to Abu Dhabi for a number of conferences over there. So, yeah, looking forward to that. It's going to be quite nice, and it'll be a nice break from this freezing weather we have over here. So that'll be that'll be nice.
Nice. Yeah, from here, great to meet you again. We great to be talking and be in this 4th episode all together. Here in Buenos Aires, it's not freezing as in Toronto right now. We have like a pretty good weather, almost like 30 degrees right now here. So yeah, really nice, almost summer as well. Obviously, that's
spoiled.
in Europe and
spoiled.
Yeah. What about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing fine. We're doing fine over here. We got a lot to talk about this episode, I guess. Yep. We have like some packed lineup. And Nikita, I know you are like the tech guy that I love you for. And we start out with the Ethereum Fusaka upgrade. It has been rolled out yesterday, like it's December 3rd. It wants to scale Ethereum. Maybe you can share some thoughts with the audience about like the latest upgrade.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an exciting one. I think I was actually at the last I was at the kind of announcement and transition ceremony for when we did when Ethereum did the whole transition from proof of work to proof of stake. Like that was an insane time. And every time just you can do this big network upgrade, I just think it's interesting because it just shows how much coordination is possible around the world. It's not easy to get this many people aligned on different changes and upgrades. But I think in the last like couple of months to a year, like the Ethereum Foundation has really, there was a period when, things seemed a little bit slower, things were a little bit less clear. And now I think there's much more clear push on like upgrades, improvements. There's some really interesting ones that are happening here right now. So we have just much higher throughput, like larger blobs, more blobs possible. And this is important because it's just important for scalability. There's new types of apps that can be built because of this. Easier to build different smart contracts, storing data back on the chain as well. All of this is going to come down to more possibilities of what you can build. But the other thing that I think is even more interesting is they significantly improved just what the specs are needed for actually running a full node yourself. And now you can be like, it's much easier to be a home staker. Like I think for about $300 to $400 on average, you can buy all the parts that you would need for a computer that can run a full node now, which I think is really, really great, because that's one slight danger, I would say, with some, with some networks out there where, you basically have to run it on data centers or on like massive equipment. And to be honest, like that's still probably where a lot of, nodes will end up running. But I do think the resilience of the network really is important. And resilience means that any person can run a node, anyone can contribute to verifying the whole network. And this will just prevent any single one point of failure. And I think that's something that Ethereum has really shown, is that it's been a very, very resistant network with great uptimes, with, kind of consistently improving performance. Have things always moved as quickly as people want? Maybe not. I think things are starting to move faster now as well. And I think things are starting to look up for the whole, for the whole network. It's survived many different cycles in a very strong fashion. There's whole ecosystems being built on Ethereum now. And I think we're now in a place where this is going to be the era of apps now, basically. Like we're really going from, okay, people are really focused on building the infra to all the infra is good enough now where we can build strong apps, right? And we're seeing this with stuff like, Polymarket and others that are just like, there's people that don't even have much of an idea about what is going on with crypto at all using these apps and finding them to be very useful. But then you get all the benefits of the, the underlying crypto infra that is like really powering the whole platform. So I think it's going to be, overall, I think this upgrade will be really good for just like resilience and kind of decentralization as a whole, because now, I can run a node, you can run a node, anybody watching this video can run a node as well. And so that's, I think, really good for the whole network.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's like a big part in decentralization is like opening up for as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, like if you need like a dedicated like server farm or whatever to be able to run a node, it's very hard in some countries to be actually like joining the decentralization process. And I think like the coming updates for Ethereum, they will be like focusing even more on scaling Ethereum itself. So this one was basically like enabling L2s to even be faster and be processing more data.
Yes, yeah. This is definitely a great benefit for L2s. Like that's kind of nice thing is now every upgrade, it impacts so many different kind of players. So it's going to be better for L2s. From my understanding, it's also going to be better for kind of any kind of zero knowledge applications, especially if they need to post data back to the chain. So there's a bunch of tech that has itself been evolving, and then there's this compounding effect of the underlying chain is improving and the tech being built on top of it is improving as well.
Yeah, 100%. And apart from that, also wanted to highlight that, I don't know if everyone that is attending here to start seeing us right now have saw, but Ethereum actually released like a really quick short video yesterday showing like the main updates. And one of that actually I think is pretty interesting for us to talk in here too. That is basically phone and hardware key logins. Basically something that Ethereum mentioned that they are achieving with this new update, that also from the video there see this like the biggest update they have done since the merge, is that right now by this upgrade they are allowing basically like a different signature for passkey wallets. And what this means is that users can basically sign in with Face ID or other devices on their security card wallets. They are allowing like mobile first onboarding flows without seed phrases. So there are like a couple key updates that they're doing on the wallet side of things that they are allowing with this update, and also to move from like slow solutions that they had in the past as well.
That's honestly going to be huge. Yeah, because I think because of the certain choices of like cryptographic algorithms and this kind of stuff in the past, there was always questions about like, oh, like why can't I just like fingerprint, scan my fingerprint on my laptop to sign a transaction and this kind of stuff. And it was due to some like fundamental like incompatibilities between some of the tech choices, and the underlying algorithms that were used. But yeah, I think that's something that's now being improved. And that is also going to be really exciting just for the level of security and protection that you have around your wallet. Because yeah, I mean, like if I have a YubiKey, like I would like to use that with my wallet, and be able to sign transactions in this way. That would like definitely help improve this flow. Like if somebody got access to like my computer or something else like that, they would just have less ability to move funds around as easily, or if there's like a hack or something else like that, right? So it just like, I think we're in the world now where crypto and the traditional world are now like converging, and they're figuring out how to work together, right? They're figuring out like, okay, how do we take all the security standards that have existed in Web 2 and that have been improving? Because like it's not like Web 2 is just some ancient tech. Like everybody there is constantly improving security standards as well. So now that the two systems are starting to interact together more, we're starting to get better security standards and more interoperability between the different systems. So yeah, that's definitely an exciting upgrade.
What's interesting is like with the Pectra upgrade, I just looked it up. It was rolled out in May. We even have like many wallets do not even support the 7702 upgrade that was rolled out in Pectra. Like
it's gonna take some
7
time,
months ago. Yeah. So we actually like might be seeing the changes might take some time to actually like have
because there's the one thing for the chain, to implement it, and then another thing for all the UIs. I'm actually surprised about how slow adoption of 7702 has been. Honestly, I'm not maybe the expert to say why this has happened, because before the upgrade itself, there was a lot of hype around it about how we're going to start all batching transactions and how many improvements are going to be because of it. There's also a lot of worries there's going to be new types of drainers because of it, and there have been new types of drainers because of it. But in some ways, those drainers haven't hit as hard just because most wallets don't even support the upgrade yet, which is kind of crazy. I believe MetaMask has rolled out support, and some other a few others do as well. They've also obviously looked at what the impact of those new types of drainers would be, and have been addressing that as well. But yeah, it's like with all of these things, it's like there's the reality is there's also like many huge protocols now that rely on a certain way the tech worked a while back, and there's also this challenge with like immutability, because that's like one of the things that we try to aim for in really secure contracts, is that they can't be upgraded and they stay the way they are. But that also means that they can't take advantage of any new any new kind of upgrades, or adding these upgrades in. You kind of have to like patch some layers on top of it. And it can be tricky if like you have a lot of liquidity in a certain smart contract, like getting everybody to go from there to use a new system can be difficult. So that's something I think we're going to need to figure out, just so that the whole process doesn't become immensely slow, right? Because that is the one thing I would say that centralized systems still have as an advantage, is just the speed at which somebody can just go in and make a change, right? And users love that, right? They love that you can anytime they have a piece of feedback, if you can implement that feedback the same day, they're going to really love you. Obviously, we can't upgrade the entire chain every single day. So, but how can we get closer to that being the reality? I think that's something that will be on a lot of people's minds, as more and more just like traditional app builders enter into like, okay, like crypto's in a good state for me to use it now. But how do I make sure that as upgrades roll out, I'm taking advantage of everything that's being built here?
Yeah, I think like the under the hood changes that we see will be like the most important ones, because like I like envision myself with crypto that it actually is like powered under the hood, and everyone is like using the tech under the hood, but we are not like actively interacting with all these blockchains kind of things.
Yeah.
So I think like in the future we're gonna see more of this, especially like when mobile wallets etc. are more adopted, or getting more tech features that help them stay secure.
Yeah.
But Nikita, the competition isn't sleeping as well. So
Yeah.
Ethereum is making upgrades, but Solana isn't sleeping as well, right?
Yeah. We're gonna be at Solana breakpoint in next week, and there's a lot of things I've been really liking about what's going on in the Solana ecosystem. Definitely there's a certain understanding of the need for the speed of shipping, right? Of the speed of running upgrades, and the need for good apps, right? I think a lot of people have been really focused on building strong apps in that ecosystem, apps that are often even abstract away a lot of what's going on under the hood with crypto, and are just focusing on a great user experience, right? There's stuff like, you have things like Jupiter, which is, more, crypto focused, but there's a lot of other apps that are way less, like you wouldn't even know that like crypto is being actively applied. They just, this is your US dollar savings account. You just deposit your funds, you get a certain APY, and that's it. But in the background, they're doing lending, they're doing, they're putting stuff in pools to get you that nice APY, but they're just abstracting everything into just, hey, this is your this is a neobank, this is a savings account, and that's it, right? And so that's something very easy to explain, right? You just make your ad campaign. You say, hey, this is the new savings. This is we're a new bank. We offer like 5% APYs. This is better than any bank gives you right now. So just deposit your money here, right? And that's to a user, they don't even understand that you're using like Aave or something else in the background to do the deposits on those. Actually, funnily enough, Aave is also doing that themselves with their own app, which we can maybe talk about later. But in the Solana ecosystem, yeah, there's been a really big focus on apps. Lots of also, traditional institutions also starting to adopt kind of the chain. They have a lot of work with Revolut, for example, I've seen being done, and with others that are all going into the ecosystem. And honestly, one thing that I really love about Breakpoint every time that I think other conferences can learn from is they have this debate format that they use that I haven't seen anywhere else. You always go to these conferences and there's always like panels going on, right? There's like 5 people all talking a panel. They all mostly agree. They kind of just like take turns saying, a topic or like adjusting a little bit. Sometimes maybe there's a hot take here or there, but mostly people are agreeing, right? What I really like that breakpoint, and I think really shows the way that the whole culture of that ecosystem is around competition and being the best, right? And I think that's a very healthy thing. And these debate formats are very interesting because like 2 people will be there and they will just go at each other, like proving like why, I don't know, why you need decentralization versus like minimal decentralization, or why you need certain ways of detecting malicious transactions, or how do you should we have lots of stable coins or like one big stable? I don't know. Just like all sorts of different topics, but people really go at it rather than just like all being like, oh yeah, here's the popular narrative, let's all support it, right? It's people really tearing into each other. But those are the ones that have actually like, usually I'm busy like networking and talking to people, but those ones I actually stay around and listen to because you get a lot of really interesting points from them.
Did you see short crunching from my side here? Did you see the debate between Peter Schiff and CZ from Binance?
No, but I got not yet.
There was a clip on Twitter today where basically CZ handed like a gold bar to Peter Schiff, and then he handed it to him and he says like, it's heavy, right? And then CZ said like, is this real gold? And Schiff said, I don't know. And that was like the point for Bitcoin, because if it's Bitcoin, if you can verify it.
Compare that with his watch, like this watch was like, I don't know, similar stuff, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, I mean that's going to be an ongoing debate, right? Bitcoin versus gold, but I think just the ease of transfer of Bitcoin, it's going to be really like a very winning factor, I think. And we're actually going to be at Bitcoin Mina, so there's going to be a lot of great events going on there as well. And I think we're talking about honestly almost like polar opposites, right? There's like Ethereum's kind of in the middle. Solana's like, we need to ship as fast as possible. Ethereum's like, we need to ship fast but try not to break too many things. And then Bitcoin's like, not shipping is a feature, not a bug, right? Not changing this. Like, if gold doesn't need to change, if gold is gold forever, why does Bitcoin need to change, right? And so that's and I think there's a lot. I mean, clearly we can see institutions and others see the value in that, right? They don't care if you can write a smart contract or gamble some meme coins or whatever, right? Like, there's obviously tons of people that love the meme coins and all this other stuff as well. But lots of people are just looking at like, where can I just park my money and forget about it, right? And not worry too much. Just understand that this is going to be a store of value, and that's all it needs to be, right? I think the most interesting thing to me about Bitcoin is like, how do we just get closer with like the Lightning Network and some of these Bitcoin L2s and some of this other stuff of like getting to the point where I could use Bitcoin in day-to-day life, because I think that is the only downside of Bitcoin is just like the usage of it in day-to-day transactions. Not to say honestly the like other networks are much more used in day-to-day transactions yet. That's like a whole crypto problem in general. But really, if we get it to the point where like it makes sense to send $2 worth of Bitcoin when I'm buying a coffee, that will be in a good, then we're really in a good spot, because you have the store of value and you can actually spend it, right? So I think that will be in a really good spot, because then it's almost like, why would you ever hold your money in not Bitcoin at that point? It's almost like, which raises a lot of interesting questions around like traditional currencies in general and stable coins, right? Do you want to hold it in a stable coin versus hold it in Bitcoin, especially if you can spend the Bitcoin easily? It raises a lot of interesting questions. I mean, the benefit of a stable coin is you don't get the potential flash crash and all those other things, right? But overall, it might become the place where like people hold most of their money and their whole account is in Bitcoin. How you pay for that at that point will be interesting because you're still going to be thinking in dollars, but then most of your money's in Bitcoin. But that'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm excited to fly out there to meet a lot of the people every time we're anywhere around around the region. It's really nice to like in Abu Dhabi and other areas when we've been in Dubai. It's like you really get people from all over the world. It like really unites all sections of the world, and like you have builders from all around coming in. And so yeah, really, really excited for this trip.
They also got like some, I think, like regulatory clarity right now. Is that right there, right? So
Yeah, I
if
think
there are
they're
like
like,
institutions waiting
yeah.
to make a move, they can probably go ahead like very soon.
Yeah, I think it's smart on governments, right? I think the more forward-thinking governments are looking at this stuff and they're like, this is a great way to attract business, right?
Yep.
Because anywhere where you have favorable crypto regulation, it just like you literally have people are migrating to Dubai from all over the world because they're more just favorable to businesses as a whole. And they're favorable to crypto as well, right? And honestly, more and more, all money is going to move on crypto rails. Like all funds out there, like it just doesn't make sense to use the older systems. What the older systems are going to do, they're not dumb either. They understand this very, very well. They're all upgrading to crypto rails themselves right now. Many of them are like acquiring, companies in the crypto space that understand how to do this already. And this is where we're going to really see that everything's going to run on crypto rails. You're probably like, it's not that these other older companies will disappear. They're just going to be running on top of like ETH, Solana, and other stuff, including Bitcoin Lightning payments or whatever it is, right? And so that's what we're going to see start to happen. And we're going to be in a spot where if you as a government are unfavorable to crypto, it's going to be really difficult for you to attract business, to do good business. And it's going to happen way faster now than people expect. We've, I think, hit over a certain tipping point where for many years it was like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? The US made a move, Dubai, UK, other countries are making moves in this area. And very soon it's going to be like, if you're not treating crypto well, you're way behind the curve in terms of your like the financial maturity of your country.
Yeah, that Nikita, you made me think about something right now that is like a real life example that happened here in Argentina. That actually the International Monetary Fund was like pretty against like all the pro crypto regulations in here in general. Like they don't want like any crypto spread out. They just want to keep like the traditional ways of doing business, traditional ways of exchanging money, and they didn't want like to promote crypto in general. I don't know if this is also something that happens in Canada, if this is also something that happened in Germany, for example, for UWB. But I see like, yeah, I agree with you, like a lot of countries are like developing this that allows payments in crypto. I know in Dubai, for example, you can buy like an apartment directly paid with crypto. Here in Argentina, that it happens in cases, but it's not something that really common. And if you actually want to transfer me money to my Argentinian USD bank account, for example, you can't. Simply you can't. That transaction will be rejected because it needs to go through certain processes that yeah, in Bitcoin that doesn't happen. You can just do those payments. But yeah, there are like a lot of, I would say, political entities all around the world that manage like a lot of funds, a lot of things in general that are like against these crypto policies as well. Crypto policies.
I think it's tricky because like for a lot of them, it's like it's hard. It's a bit harder for them to. I think honestly it might come down to just like a lot of their tooling doesn't understand yet how to process these transactions well or track them or like detect things like fraud and other things. And all of this is very possible. Like, cause like, if anything, like I honestly thought like larger institutions might be almost more in favor of crypto sooner in some ways, at least the current state of crypto, just because everything is very traceable. You just need the right tools for it. We are getting more privacy solutions. Then there really will be some questions, around like, will institutions really be happy about some of these privacy chains? On one side, I think their customers are going to demand privacy chains to be working with them because they don't want their own transactions to be public. On the other hand, it makes doing any sort of like anti-fraud work extremely difficult. So I can see why some of them are, against it or very cautious of it. In Canada, it's very difficult to do it like anything with like I can put money into crypto. It's kind of like buying a stock. You can buy the stock, you can sometimes sell it, and you can't really do anything else with it. And even there, that they're like the few companies that have built exchanges here had to fight really hard through tons and tons of regulations. If you want to build an exchange in Canada, it's been very difficult recently. Like some of them have broken through, but I don't think it's because really of anything got easier. Just they had enough time and enough legal kind of hours build to actually, build this stuff out. But yeah, I'm hopeful in Canada it will be getting better. There's also some fairly smart regulators here as well, but Canada isn't as far ahead as I would have liked them to be.
Yeah, I mean Germany, it's kind of so and so. We all get laughed at for the Bitcoin we sold, but that was like regulated by law because it was like, funds that were frozen or seized from an illegal operation back in the day, and then they had to sell them because of the laws. And yeah, like with exchanges, or especially like I'm from Europe, and the money in crypto assets, I think MiCA, the regulations are very, very strict. Yeah. So you gotta prove that the money that you received on a wallet, on a centralized exchange, for example, that it came actually from your end. So you have to sign with the wallet that you sent the money with. Mm-hmm. So you actually can verify, hey, it was me who sent the money to this centralized exchange account, so then I can cash it out, etc. So that's kind of harsh. I think that the banks in Germany, they are trying and they are looking for ways to basically update some mortgage stuff, etc. So they are looking to do a split on the mortgage, like not only the standard deposit of money into like a long-time saving account, but you can also like have a split where you buy like 10% of that savings to Bitcoin, and then you can keep whatever share you want at the end of the mortgage rate. Yeah. So this is like you can like cross financial then with the product, which is interesting. So I think that it's gonna be like opening up new possibilities for banks, especially for interacting with crypto, and this would be like good for the crypto reputation in general. But like overall, like in the grand scheme, when you like put media, etc. inside it, it's still like kind of like a meh kind of business.
Yeah, I definitely think it's that, there's just so many people holding a ton of funds in crypto right now, and whoever lets them use those funds will be making good money, right? And it's going to be good business. They just want to make sure that they're doing it in a way where it's legal and all approved and all of this. So I'm thinking it's going to be moving in a very good place over the coming years. Yeah, we can maybe talk a little bit about threats. Some of the things that are hitting people recently. Some of the things to watch out for. Some things to keep your crypto safe. If you want to maybe talk about a little bit about this.
Do we want to start with the MPC wallet first?
Nikita? Okay, that's actually.
So we talked about Binance. So CZ was in the mix already. So we have the perfect intro to that. So basically, Binance they launched a wallet extension, which is surprisingly for me at least an MPC wallet, which is a multi-party computing wallet, which I think Nikita is going to talk about in a second. But basically, what a multi-party computing wallet does is you have like three shards, I guess. You have one, the cloud has one, and then like the entity, whoever is like giving out the shard, has one as well. Yeah. So it does make the usage of the wallet, etc., better and easier for the standard user that's just starting out with crypto, because you don't have to like write down a seed phrase. But it also means that you always have to rely on a centralized entity to be able to do your transactions and move your funds.
It's definitely not full self custody, right? But not everybody, I would say, needs entire self custody, right? One, if you're owning just like large volumes of assets and you're maybe a business and you're already regulated anyway, right? And in this cases, things like MPC or multi-sigs are not quite the same thing, because MPC, like, it's still treated as one seed phrase. Works quite well if you're managing like a large volumes of funds, and that you don't want to be responsible so much for you're the only one holding onto the seed phrase, because if you're holding onto that seed phrase, that's extremely lucrative to go after, right? You're basically splitting up a bit the responsibility around this, and it does come with certain security benefits. There are a few kind of the main downside is you don't have full self custody, right? Like you could be locked out of it, you could be locked in with a certain vendor, right? And so there is some power that the vendor that holds part of the shard of the key that has over your now transactions. If something happens to that vendor, it could impact you as well. So it increases slightly also the potential attack surface area, but because of the way they're split up, it would still have to be quite a sophisticated attack for something to actually happen. And honestly, maybe in many ways it will be good for a lot of like day-to-day people even using this, right? Because of the main problem is that like the largest volume of funds we see stolen is still mostly lost seed phrases. That's really the largest amount of funds stolen still every month. And so clearly there's an issue with seed phrases. They also like, you could also, there's also talk about a little bit about MPC versus multi-sigs, right? Because they work in kind of like similar ways where you have multiple parties, they have to sign off for a transaction to go through. But one benefit of MPCs in some ways is it's still one seed phrase, right? And there's very many kind of like it just because of the way things have been built for a while, not everything has been built to work well with multi-sigs. So you have like a little bit more compatibility by using one seed phrase versus a multi-sig. But then the multi-sig has this benefit of, with MPC, usually you're locked into a certain set or a certain configuration. With multi-sigs, you can like readjust them, you can add more signatories, you can on-demand change, how many signatories you need for different levels of transactions to be approved. Like, I think multi-sigs are like basically the most flexible approach. MPCs is like a good kind of like standard one, but then if you really need self-custody, you still need to hold on to that seed phrase. I guess what Binance is looking at here is probably they want to just go after the regular user, and making sure that they have. It's like what we're talking about, like if you have a self-custodial wallet and you make a mistake, there's no bank support to do anything. With MPC, there is some things you can do that where they can help you with certain fund, like fund transitions and this kind of stuff. So definitely a bit of an improvement of the UX where like the organization you're working with, in this case the Binance wallet, will be taking on a bit of more of the responsibility, and for that they can actually offer customer support, because it's very hard to offer any customer support to anybody with just a self-custodial wallet, right? The funds are gone. I'm sorry. I can console you and give you some, therapy or something, but I can't return your funds.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's like a debate to be had, like if it's worth the trade-off between the convenience and the self-custodial part. But as you said, Nikita, I think like for a lot of people, self-custody isn't like the best option that they could choose. Like especially if we're thinking about people like, I don't want to like age pick a category, but like people, let's say like 50 plus years old, maybe, right? Maybe they are better off like having an MPC wallet and having like a kind of centralized solution rather than just having to self-custody all the time, because like as you said, they might lose the seed phrase, or I don't know, the cat eats the seed phrase. We all heard the stories, right? Which is like,
I agree with that. I think that is probably a wallet for people that are like already using Binance Wallet. Like I think Binance released a wallet like 1-2 years ago, and since Santander are trying to do different improvements there. And yeah, this specific change I think is, I think they announced like themselves. It's mostly for this like private key management. Like I think when you needed to sign up with the Binance wallet first, you actually needed to write up like that security password and of that, and it was kind of a weird process for onboarding like people that are not used to use decentralized wallets, and I think it's like an advancement for that. And apart from that, just taking a quick look at their announcement, they are mentioning that by using MPC, and I think this is why you also, Nikita, mentioned this, hacking risks are minimized and recovering the account is easier. So I would say, if I need to summarize in 1 or 2 points why this is something better, hacking risks are minimized because you have the MPC part right now, and recovering your account is easier because you have other ways to recover that apart from the seed phrase that you have in most of the hot wallets that you have in place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a good one. Because we're talking about threats of losing our stuff, Nikita, we've seen honeypots on a rise lately. Especially you guys have been monitoring these, and you have been like, revisiting the honeypots. They have been like a popular topic back in the day when it was like 2021, 2022, when everyone just went crazy on coins. But in 2025, they are still alive, it seems.
Yeah, that's that's definitely something that we're seeing quite a lot of. But there's actually quite an increase of it as well, because I mean it's a very simple approach, right? You just make a fake version of an official token that has a bunch of hype around it. A lot of interfaces still, some of the better ones, they do filter a lot and allow list a lot for the official ones. But in very many trading interfaces, they'll just like, oh, you want to buy like, I don't know, Monad or something else, right? You put that in there and there'll be like, 5 different ones with Mon or something similar, right? And so scammers are aware of the way these interfaces work, so they just create the fake tokens. They'll even put some fake liquidity in there, so they can move, hundreds of thousands, sometimes many millions of dollars in there, so the token looks more legit. And then you start trading it, or you start putting money into it, and obviously it's like a fake one that they control and can just like rug pull at any moment, right? So it's tricky because interfaces don't want to go too hard down the allow listing path, because then it makes them a bit too almost like centralized and too much of like the kingmakers and decision makers. So they do want people to be able to, trade the latest token, or if something launches that they're not aware of, that it can still be traded, because then they want to capture that volume, right? But at the same time, that opens up to this gamification of their UI, or like not gamification, but I guess like abuse, of their UI. And so, yeah, honeypots have been definitely still on the rise. I think it just comes down to people love jumping on the latest token and making sure that they're in on it before any sort of like big crash happens or anything else like that. They want to trade it while it's hot. And again, it's just like you need to double check these things, right? You need to go to the official company's documentation typically, or their main site. They will have a link to what their main ticker is, right, or their main token is. But I think UIs can still, like the actual trading interfaces, can work on this more.
Yeah, I remember that, for example, in 2020 craziness, I don't know, Elon Musk publishing a tweet and you had like 30 new coins being published every week, that I would say 90% of them were probably honeypots, and the ones that weren't honeypots were like rug pulls. So it was like that. And it's true. I mean, I don't know like any decentralized exchange that you can publish like any coin in there that has like restriction to honeypots. Like most of the cases you can trade them naturally if you will do with an official coin. So definitely something interesting to talk with some people working at DeFi exchanges as well.
That's for sure.
Nikita, do you see tools like, I think, Dex Screener, etc.? Do you think they catch these all? They do, or
they catch a good chunk of them, but there is also like reporting that they do. They work with some like external providers. I think Dex Screener has some work that they do with like Go Plus, which helps them out. We actually work with Go Plus on some of these when we need to also flag fake tokens that like are impersonating, our customers. And so, this is something that they're using, but we still find tokens that are like fake on there. And so I think it's something that can still be improved, but again, it's like kind of tricky for them to act on it too harshly, because then they have to become kind of the decision maker of like, what is real, and you almost have to like map out the entire crypto ecosystem in order to be able to really determine. And you have to map it out every day, right? Not just like map it out once, but there's new stuff launching all the time. And then if you say, you're too harsh, and like let's say you only add like, I don't know, at that point it's like token listing, right? You can go the opposite way of like what exchanges do, where there's like a whole in-depth token listing process. But then that leads to its own issues. Either certain tokens are excluded, or the exchanges have to do like certain types of deals to get you listed, all this other stuff. And it has benefits of, when you trade on the exchange, you don't really see any fake tokens, which is great. But it then means certain really great tokens are also not available there, right? And so, and I think this is going to be raised more and more of as a question, because I think everything's going to get tokenized. We're going to be seeing like, there's going to be like 1 billion tokens out there, 1 billion legitimate tokens, and so at that point, how do you make sure which ones are, if there's 1 billion legitimate ones, there's going to be 1 trillion fake ones, right? So like, how do you sort all of this out? I think it's going to come down to like some sort of like decentralized, like allow list building, or people that can, it's kind of like when you register a business, there's certain processes that you can go to register a business. You need to, either a bank can stamp off on certain things, or the government can stamp off on certain documents. There's a couple other things, but there's like a process around saying, okay, I have a legitimate real business, right? And there's probably going to be some sort of process like that around tokens, where, okay, if you go through a certain process, there's a certain like batch of companies that are all authorized to approve, like come in and say, hey, yes, I can stamp this as a real business or a real token, and then this will be shown up across all the main UIs. This is probably the way we're going to go.
What I find interesting about Honeypot, like especially, is that usually, like I myself, I always understood it like you are like restricted to sell them, or there's only like a few wallets that can sell them actually, right? Like few of the dev wallets introduced in the Honeypot scam, because the Honeypot is basically, you can't get out of them. You buy them and you have to keep them basically forever, because you cannot sell them. So I think that like from a smart contract point of view, it should be pretty easy to verify if there's like some restrictions.
There's some more basic ones where you can do it, but the problem is you can kind of like do deeper and deeper layers of like obfuscation and confusion around this stuff, where I think you can do it. Honestly, I think one thing that, maybe like companies should even do, maybe some of them do this already, but like just on all of these new tokens, I run like an automated test of like, oh, like I spin up a fresh wallet, I load like $2 into it, I put it into this token, I take it out. If that works, good. But then again, if even like this might sound smart, but then the scammers catch on to that and they're like, okay, there's some code in here that says anything under $1,000 you can move it in and out freely, but anything over anything over 1K you can't move out. And so now you have to test with 1K, but then if you test with 1K, then they can just steal your money, right? Also, so it's like it becomes tricky to, like, every time you find a way to catch these things, there's also a way to avoid the way of catching it as well. So it's like it creates a very interesting like back and forth battle.
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game, right?
Yeah. But there's definitely ways I think we can improve this. I think just because we can't solve every case doesn't mean we shouldn't solve many of the cases, right?
You, Nikita, if you have like an exchange or decentralized exchange, would you list a token that has obfuscated code?
No, definitely not. No,
because obviously, like if you have obfuscated code, you can like bypass all of these things. But would you even go to the extent and then list these tokens where you said like, I don't know what's in the smart contract. Screw it, we're listing it.
Yeah. But that does show up on many trading interfaces. I don't know if that happens on Deck Screener. I think they might filter some of the stuff out already. But on other ones that are more kind of like open, it does kind of happen, right? But yeah, I think it's gonna be a competitive advantage, honestly, for many of these platforms to say like, hey, like when you're trading here, you're trading on the real like verified tokens. That will be something that I mean, that's basically why people use centralized exchanges, right? Like it's because you have a sense of like, okay, it's easy to move money in and out, and there's somebody taking care of all these security steps for me.
Okay. So once the funds are gone, I have like one last point, because like most of you guys know that I'm like in part of the Revoke.cash team, and in the Discord for Revoke.cash, we see so many cases where people open tickets because they don't know where to go to. And then they tell us like, hey, I just lost my funds to this drainer. Can you help me recover my balance? And I don't know how many people I told, like in my time at Revoke.cash, sorry, man, we cannot like reverse the blockchain. We cannot undo any transactions for you.
Yeah.
So once you have been scammed on chain, the chances to see your funds again like are probably like below 1%, I would say. Like even if you like put in local authorities, etc. Like there are so many ways to just like get the funds out of the system. So you probably have no chance of ever seeing them again. But you have to know that if someone is like offering you to recover funds for you, they are trying to scam you as well.
Yeah, that's honestly that's honestly the most important point there, is that if somebody's telling you I can recover your funds for you, immediate alarm. Like whenever you talk to a real like investigator, the first thing they will tell you is like, I most likely can't recover these funds for you. We can try and do a retainer and I can help you out a little bit. We have success in like 2% of our cases, but most likely we're not going to recover. If we do recover, we'll, there's usually some sort of fee or whatever involved, but in many other cases they can't, right? And that's what an honest like investigator would typically tell you, right? If they're promising you, I'm going to 100% get your funds back, run away, like run away. The other important point to note there is that for law enforcement and authorities, they have certain like thresholds at which they can act or not act. I think it's something over like 50K, over 60K, something like that. If it's under that amount, law enforcement will not even get involved. It's too small of a case for them to do anything. Like they deal with huge cases all the time. They're resource strapped. And so if it's under that amount, they just literally will not look at it, so don't even going to authorities is kind of, you can file a report and all this. Again, very unlikely to do something there. The main thing that you can probably do is go to a legitimate investigator. There's companies like Zero Shadow and others that we're close with that are helpful in this space. And have done successful recoveries. Even they will tell you in many cases, like their first thing is like, we probably can't do this, but if we, there may be a case where really depends on how you lost the funds, where they went, are they sitting on some exchange? If they are sitting on an exchange for a little while, there's possibilities of freezing them. And so certain attackers don't always know. They know how to maybe steal the funds, but then once they got them, they might not know what to do with them. And so this is where there's still some possibility. I think the main thing is getting in touch with a legitimate investigator as soon as possible is very important. You can also contact SEAL, like SEAL 911. They have a good support team there that will, most of the time they just end up putting you in touch with Zero Shadow, but there are people there that will help you with essentially getting calming down first, and not making more mistakes. That's the biggest honestly thing, is if you're falling victim, is not continuing to because the scammer will keep talking to you. They're not, when they first stole your funds, they're not done. They're going to keep reaching out to you. They're going to be like, oh, by the way, if you send this much money to this account, they have very common techniques your funds are stuck, and you need to put more money in to get them unstuck, because then it'll hit a certain volume threshold and then I can move them for you, right? Or something similar. And that's always fake, right? There's no case when that actually happens. And so the very first thing is stop talking to the scammer, stop communicating with them whatsoever. Don't even go yell at them or say something bad to them, because every next interaction you have with the scammer can lead to more funds lost, right? And so stop talking to them, go find a real investigator and basically listen to their advice, right? So yeah, that's something that we can do. But yeah, if somebody promises you they can recover your funds, it's not going to happen.
Okay. I think that's a great closing statement for the,
Yeah,
for the night,
yeah.
Nikita.
If you lost your self-custodial funds, they're probably gone.
You're done.
Yeah, okay, and with that, I think we can probably wrap up. I mean, we're excited. We're going to be seeing some people at Bitcoin Mina and Solana Breakpoint, so excited to say hi to everybody there. We'll be on the floor talking to companies, talking to partners. So yeah, excited for that. Excited to see everybody in the Solana ecosystem. It's going to be great. Just excited to be there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. We'll say goodbye. Thank you everyone. Do свидания.
Hasta luego.
Bis zum nächsten Mal.